Welcome back and thank you for tuning into Reddit Cheating Stories. We appreciate every single one of you. We love to know what part of the world are you watching from right now. Let's know in the comments. Let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1: The Wedding Day. It was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives, our daughter's wedding day. But little did our guests know, it was also a day of reckoning for me. My wife, Sarah, and I had been married for over 25 years, but our relationship had been rocky for a long time. She had cheated on me multiple times, and I had forgiven her, hoping that she would change. As I stood at the altar, watching our daughter exchange vows with her new husband, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. I was happy to see our daughter get married, but I was also reminded of the pain that Sarah had caused me. I glanced over at Sarah, who was sitting in the front row, trying to hold back tears. She looked beautiful, as always, but I could see the guilt and regret etched on her face. I felt a pang of sadness, knowing that things could have been different if she had only been faithful to me. As the ceremony went on, I couldn't help but think about the past. I remembered the day we got married, the day our daughter was born, and all the happy moments we had shared as a family. But I also remembered the pain and the betrayal that Sarah had caused me. After the ceremony, we headed to the reception, where our friends and family were waiting to celebrate with us. I put on a happy face, trying to pretend that everything was okay, but deep down, I was still hurting. As we sat down at the head table, Sarah approached me, her eyes brimming with tears. "Please, can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I was ready to talk to her. But then I nodded, knowing that we needed to have this conversation. We stepped outside, away from the noise and the prying eyes of our guests. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the landscape. It was a beautiful sight, but I couldn't appreciate it right now. "What do you want to talk about?" I asked, trying to sound calm. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes locked on mine. "I'm so sorry, John," she said, using my name for the first time in a long time. "I know I hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me. But I want you to know that I still love you." I looked at her, searching for any sign of insincerity. But all I saw was desperation and regret. Still, I couldn't bring myself to trust her again. "Sarah, I appreciate your apology," I said, trying to sound sincere. "But I'm not sure if I can ever trust you again. You've hurt me too many times, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you." Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand," she said. "But please, don't give up on me. I'll do whatever it takes to regain your trust. I'll go to therapy, I'll do whatever you want. Just please, don't leave me." I looked at her, feeling a pang of guilt. Was I being too harsh? Should I give her another chance? But then I remembered all the pain she had caused me, and my resolve hardened. "Sarah, I'm sorry," I said, shaking my head. "But I deserve better than someone who has hurt me repeatedly. I deserve someone who will love and respect me unconditionally." Sarah's face crumpled, and she burst into tears. I felt a pang of sadness, knowing that I was causing her pain. But I also knew that I had made the right decision. As I walked back into the reception, I felt a sense of closure. I knew that I was starting a new chapter in my life, one that didn't include Sarah. But little did I know, this was only the beginning of a long and painful journey. A journey that would test my resolve, my faith, and my ability to forgive. And as I looked around the reception, I knew that I wasn't alone. There were people around me who cared about me, who wanted to help me heal. And with their support, I knew that I could face whatever challenges lay ahead. But for now, I just took a deep breath, and let the music wash over me. I knew that I still had a long way to go, but I was ready to take the first step. And as I danced with my daughter, feeling her happiness and joy, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. This was just the beginning of my journey, but I was ready to face whatever came next. Bring it on. Chapter 2: The Aftermath. As the night wore on, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. I had finally told Sarah how I felt, and I had made it clear that I wasn't interested in reconciling. But as I looked around the reception, I could see the concern etched on the faces of our friends and family. They had all been affected by our troubled marriage, and they were worried about what the future held for us. My daughter, Emily, came up to me, a look of worry on her face. "Dad, are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. I smiled, trying to reassure her. "I'm fine, sweetie," I said. "Just a little emotional, that's all." Emily nodded, but I could tell she was still worried. She had always been a sensitive child, and she had been deeply affected by our marital problems. As the night wore on, I couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt. I had hurt Sarah, and I had caused our friends and family a lot of pain. But I knew that I had made the right decision. I deserved to be happy, and I deserved to be with someone who loved and respected me. As the reception came to a close, I said goodbye to our friends and family, and I thanked them for their support. I knew that I still had a long way to go, but I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As I drove home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. I had finally closed the door on my troubled marriage, and I was ready to start a new chapter in my life. But as I pulled into my driveway, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I looked around, but I didn't see anyone. I shrugged it off, telling myself I was just being paranoid. As I got out of the car, I noticed a piece of paper on the windshield. I walked over to investigate, and my heart sank as I saw Sarah's handwriting. "Please forgive me," the note read. "I love you, and I always will." I felt a pang of sadness, knowing that Sarah was still hurting. But I also knew that I had made the right decision. I deserved to be happy, and I deserved to be with someone who loved and respected me. I took a deep breath, and I walked into my house, ready to start my new life. Chapter 3: The Road to Healing. As I walked into my house, I felt a sense of emptiness. The silence was deafening, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was alone. But as I looked around, I saw all the familiar things that had been a part of my life for so long. I saw the family photos on the wall, the comfortable furniture, and the warm decorations. I took a deep breath, and I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. As I walked into the kitchen, I saw a note from my daughter. "Dad, I'm so proud of you," it read. "You deserve to be happy. I love you." I felt a lump form in my throat as I read the note. I was so grateful to have such a loving and supportive daughter. As I looked around the kitchen, I saw all the familiar things that had been a part of my life for so long. I saw the coffee maker, the toaster, and the sink. I took a deep breath, and I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. As I walked over to the coffee maker, I saw a packet of coffee that Emily had left for me. I smiled, knowing that she had been thinking of me. I made myself a cup of coffee, and I sat down at the table, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. I knew that I still had a long way to go, but I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As I sipped my coffee, I felt a sense of gratitude wash over me. I was grateful for my daughter, for my friends, and for my family. I was grateful for the love and support they had given me. And as I looked around the kitchen, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. I was home, and I was at peace. Chapter 4: The First Few Days. As the first few days passed, I settled into a routine. I woke up every morning, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat down at the table to plan out my day. I spent most of my days running errands, doing chores, and trying to get my life back on track. I also spent a lot of time thinking about my marriage, and trying to process my emotions. As I looked back on my marriage, I realized that I had been unhappy for a long time. I had been living in a state of denial, trying to convince myself that everything was fine. But now that I was alone, I had the time and space to reflect on my feelings. I realized that I had been feeling trapped and suffocated in my marriage. I had been feeling like I was living a lie, pretending to be happy when I wasn't. As I processed my emotions, I started to feel a sense of relief. I was relieved to be out of the marriage, relieved to be free from the toxic dynamic that had been suffocating me. But I also felt a sense of guilt. I felt guilty for leaving Sarah, guilty for not being able to make the marriage work. I felt guilty for not being able to forgive her for her infidelities. As I grappled with my emotions, I knew that I needed to seek out support. I couldn't do this alone. I needed to talk to someone who could help me process my feelings and move forward. I decided to reach out to a therapist, someone who could provide me with a safe and neutral space to explore my emotions. I made an appointment and waited anxiously for the day of our session. As I sat in the therapist's office, I felt a sense of nervousness. I didn't know what to expect, didn't know how I would feel. But as I started to talk, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I told the therapist about my marriage, about the pain and the betrayal. I told her about my feelings of guilt and shame. And as I talked, I felt like a weight was lifting off my shoulders. The therapist listened attentively, nodding her head and making supportive noises. She asked me questions, probing deeper into my emotions. And as I answered, I felt like I was gaining clarity. I realized that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't the only one who had been through this. I realized that I was strong, that I was capable of surviving this difficult time. As the session came to a close, I felt a sense of hope. I felt like I was taking the first steps towards healing, towards moving forward. And as I left the therapist's office, I felt like I could finally start to breathe again. Chapter 5: The Road to Forgiveness. As I continued to see the therapist, I started to work on forgiving Sarah. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary. I knew that I couldn't move forward until I had forgiven her. The therapist helped me to see that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting what had happened. It was about releasing the negative emotions associated with the experience. It was about letting go of the anger and the resentment. As I worked on forgiving Sarah, I started to feel a sense of peace. I started to feel like I was releasing the burden that had been weighing me down. But forgiveness wasn't just about Sarah. It was also about forgiving myself. I had to forgive myself for staying in the marriage for so long, for not being strong enough to leave sooner. As I worked on forgiving myself, I started to feel a sense of compassion. I started to see that I had done the best I could with the resources I had at the time. And as I looked back on my marriage, I started to see that it had been a learning experience. I had learned so much about myself, about relationships, and about forgiveness. As I continued on the road to forgiveness, I knew that it wouldn't be easy. There would be ups and downs, twists and turns. But I was determined to get there, determined to release the negative emotions and move forward. Chapter 6: The Power of Self-Care. As I continued to work on forgiving Sarah and myself, I realized the importance of self-care. I realized that I needed to take care of myself, both physically and emotionally. I started to prioritize self-care, making time for activities that nourished my mind, body, and soul. I started to exercise regularly, eating healthy foods and getting enough sleep. I also started to engage in activities that brought me joy, activities that made me feel alive. I started to paint again, something I had loved to do as a child. I started to read again, devouring books on spirituality and personal growth. As I prioritized self-care, I started to feel a sense of renewal. I started to feel like I was coming back to life, like I was emerging from a long, dark tunnel. I realized that self-care wasn't selfish, it was essential. It was essential for my well-being, essential for my happiness. And as I continued to prioritize self-care, I knew that I would be okay. I would be okay, not because I had forgiven Sarah or myself, but because I had learned to take care of myself. Chapter 7: The Journey of Self-Discovery. As I continued on my journey of self-care, I started to realize that I had been living my life according to other people's expectations. I had been trying to please everyone else, without taking the time to think about what I really wanted. I started to ask myself questions like, what makes me happy? What are my passions? What do I want to achieve in my life? As I reflected on these questions, I started to gain clarity on what I really wanted. I realized that I had been stuck in a rut, doing the same things over and over again, without any sense of purpose or direction. I started to explore new hobbies and interests, things that I had always wanted to try but never had the time. I started to take classes, attend workshops, and read books on topics that fascinated me. As I continued on this journey of self-discovery, I started to feel a sense of excitement and wonder. I felt like I was unlocking a part of myself that had been hidden for years. I realized that I didn't have to be defined by my past or by other people's expectations. I could create a new identity for myself, one that was authentic and true to who I was. As I looked in the mirror, I saw a person who was strong, resilient, and capable. I saw a person who was worthy of love, respect, and happiness. And as I smiled at my reflection, I knew that I was ready to start a new chapter in my life. I was ready to leave the past behind and embark on a journey of self-discovery and growth. Chapter 8: The Power of Friendship. As I continued on my journey of self-discovery, I realized the importance of friendship in my life. I had always been a bit of a loner, content to spend time by myself, but now I was starting to see the value of having close friends. I started to reach out to old friends, people I had lost touch with over the years. I started to attend social events, join clubs and organizations, and volunteer in my community. As I met new people and formed new connections, I started to feel a sense of belonging. I felt like I was part of a community that supported and accepted me for who I was. I realized that friendships were not just about having people to hang out with, but about having people who could support and encourage me on my journey. I started to appreciate the friends I had, friends who had been there for me through thick and thin. I started to nurture those relationships, making time for them and showing them how much I cared. As I looked around at the people in my life, I felt grateful for the friendships I had. I knew that I was not alone, that I had people who cared about me and wanted to help me on my journey. Chapter 9: The Challenge of Forgiveness. As I continued on my journey of self-discovery and growth, I realized that forgiveness was going to be a major challenge for me. I had been hurt so deeply by Sarah's infidelity, and I was still struggling to come to terms with what had happened. I knew that I needed to forgive Sarah, not for her sake, but for mine. I needed to release the negative emotions that were still holding me back, emotions like anger, resentment, and bitterness. But forgiveness was not easy. It was a process that required effort, commitment, and patience. It was a process that required me to confront my emotions, to acknowledge my pain, and to let go of my need for revenge. As I struggled to forgive Sarah, I realized that I was not just forgiving her, but also myself. I was forgiving myself for staying in the marriage, for not being strong enough to leave sooner. I was forgiving myself for not being able to prevent the infidelity, for not being able to fix the problems in our marriage. As I forgave myself and Sarah, I started to feel a sense of peace. I started to feel like I was releasing the burden that had been weighing me down. I started to feel like I was moving forward, like I was leaving the past behind and embarking on a new journey. Chapter 10: The New Beginning. As I looked back on my journey, I realized that I had come a long way. I had faced my fears, confronted my emotions, and forgiven myself and Sarah. I had discovered a new sense of purpose and meaning in my life. I had discovered a new sense of identity and self-worth. As I looked to the future, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. I felt like I was starting a new chapter in my life, a chapter that was full of possibilities and promise. I knew that I still had challenges ahead of me, but I was ready to face them. I was ready to take on the world, to pursue my dreams, and to live my life to the fullest. As I took my first steps into this new chapter of my life, I felt a sense of freedom and liberation. I felt like I was finally living my life on my own terms, without the weight of my past mistakes holding me back. I started to pursue my passions and interests, things that I had put on hold while I was in my marriage. I started taking classes, attending workshops, and reading books on topics that fascinated me. I also started to reconnect with old friends and make new ones. I joined social clubs and organizations, and started to attend events and gatherings. As I met new people and formed new connections, I started to feel a sense of belonging and community. I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself, something that gave my life meaning and purpose. I also started to focus on my physical health, something that had taken a backseat during my marriage. I started exercising regularly, eating healthy foods, and getting enough sleep. As I took care of my physical health, I started to feel more energized and confident. I felt like I was capable of taking on the world, of achieving anything I set my mind to. And as I looked in the mirror, I saw a person who was strong, resilient, and capable. I saw a person who was worthy of love, respect, and happiness. I knew that I still had challenges ahead of me, but I was ready to face them. I was ready to take on the world, to pursue my dreams, and to live my life to the fullest. Chapter 11: A New Relationship. As I continued to focus on my personal growth and development, I started to meet new people and form new connections. One of those people was a woman named Emily. Emily was a kind and compassionate person, with a warm and caring smile. We met at a social event, and I was immediately drawn to her warmth and energy. As we talked and got to know each other, I realized that Emily was someone special. She was intelligent, witty, and charming, with a quick sense of humor and a deep sense of empathy. I found myself feeling drawn to Emily in a way that I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation whenever we were together, and I found myself thinking about her constantly. As we started to spend more time together, I realized that Emily was someone who truly understood me. She was someone who listened to me, who supported me, and who encouraged me to be my best self. I knew that I wasn't ready to jump into a new relationship, but I couldn't deny the connection that I felt with Emily. I decided to take things slow, to get to know her better and to see where things might go. Chapter 12, a new chapter. As I looked to the future, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. I knew that I still had challenges ahead of me, but I was ready to face them. I was ready to take on the world, to pursue my dreams, and to live my life to the fullest. I was ready to start a new chapter in my life, a chapter that was full of possibilities and promise. And as I looked at Emily, I knew that I had found someone special. I knew that she was someone who would support me, encourage me, and love me for who I was. I knew that I still had a long way to go, but I was excited for the journey. I was excited to see what the future held, and I was excited to start this new chapter in my life. Chapter 13, Reflections on the Past. As I looked back on my past, I realized that I had grown and learned so much. I had learned to forgive myself and others, to let go of negative emotions and to move forward. I had learned to appreciate the beauty of life, to find joy in the simple things and to cherish the people who mattered most to me. I had also learned to be kinder to myself, to be more compassionate and understanding. I had learned to recognize my strengths and weaknesses, and to use that knowledge to become a better person. As I reflected on my past, I realized that it had been a journey of growth and transformation. It had been a journey of discovery, of learning, and of becoming. And as I looked to the future, I knew that I would continue to grow and learn. I would continue to face challenges and overcome obstacles. And I would continue to become the best version of myself. Chapter 14, The Future Ahead. As I looked to the future, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. I knew that I still had challenges ahead of me, but I was ready to face them. I was ready to take on the world, to pursue my dreams, and to live my life to the fullest. I was ready to start a new chapter in my life, a chapter that was full of possibilities and promise. And as I looked to the future, I knew that I had Emily by my side. She was someone who supported me, encouraged me, and loved me for who I was. I knew that our relationship was still in its early stages, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. I knew that we still had a lot to learn about each other, but I was eager to take on that journey. As I thought about the future, I knew that I wanted to spend it with Emily. I wanted to build a life with her, to create memories and experiences that would last a lifetime. I knew that it wouldn't be easy, that there would be challenges and obstacles along the way. But I was ready to face them, to overcome them and to emerge stronger and more in love. As I looked into Emily's eyes, I knew that I had found my soulmate. I knew that she was the one person who could make me feel seen, heard, and understood. And as I took her hand, I knew that I was ready to take on the future. I was ready to build a life with her, to create a love that would last a lifetime. Chapter 15, A New Beginning. As Emily and I started our new life together, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. We were building a life from scratch, creating a home and a future together. We spent our days exploring our new neighborhood, trying new restaurants and cafes, and getting to know our new community. We spent our nights cuddled up on the couch, watching movies and TV shows, and just enjoying each other's company. As we settled into our new routine, I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace and contentment. I knew that I had found my soulmate in Emily, and that we were building a life together that was filled with love, laughter, and adventure. As I looked into Emily's eyes, I knew that I had made the right decision. I had taken a chance on love, and it had paid off in the best possible way. I knew that our journey was just beginning, and that there would be ups and downs along the way. But I was ready to face them, to overcome them and to emerge stronger and more in love. Chapter 16, A Love That Lasts. As the months turned into years, Emily and I continued to build our life together. We traveled the world, explored new hobbies and interests, and just enjoyed each other's company. Through it all, our love continued to grow and flourish. We faced challenges and obstacles, but we always found a way to overcome them together. As I looked into Emily's eyes, I knew that our love was something special. It was a love that had been tested and proven, a love that had stood the test of time. I knew that our love would continue to grow and flourish, that it would be a source of strength and inspiration for us both. And as I took Emily's hand, I knew that I would always be there for her, that I would always love and cherish her. Chapter 17, A New Chapter. As Emily and I looked to the future, we knew that we had a lot to be excited about. We had built a life together, a life that was filled with love, laughter, and adventure. We knew that there would be new challenges and opportunities ahead, but we were ready to face them together. As we stood on the threshold of this new chapter in our lives, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude and appreciation. I was grateful for Emily, for her love and support. I was grateful for our life together, for the memories and experiences we had shared. And as I looked into Emily's eyes, I knew that I was ready to take on whatever the future held. I was ready to build a new chapter in our lives, a chapter that would be filled with love, laughter, and adventure. Chapter 18, A Love That Endures. As the years went by, Emily and I continued to grow and evolve together. We faced new challenges and opportunities, but we always found a way to overcome them together. Through it all, our love continued to endure. It was a love that had been tested and proven, a love that had stood the test of time. As I looked into Emily's eyes, I knew that our love would continue to endure. It would be a source of strength and inspiration for us both, a reminder of the power of true love. And as I took Emily's hand, I knew that I would always be there for her, that I would always love and cherish her. Chapter 19, A New Beginning. As Emily and I looked to the future, we knew that we had a lot to be excited about. We had built a life together, a life that was filled with love, laughter, and adventure. We knew that there would be new challenges and opportunities ahead, but we were ready to face them together. As we stood on the threshold of this new chapter in our lives, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. I knew that we would continue to grow and evolve together, that we would continue to build a life that was filled with love, laughter, and adventure. And as I looked into Emily's eyes, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. I was with the person I loved, the person who made me feel seen, heard, and understood. As we began this new chapter in our lives, I knew that we would face challenges and obstacles along the way. But I also knew that we would overcome them, that we would emerge stronger and more in love. And as I took Emily's hand, I knew that I was ready to take on whatever the future held. I was ready to build a new life with her, a life that would be filled with love, laughter, and adventure. Chapter 20, A Life of Love and Happiness. As the years went by, Emily and I continued to build a life together. We traveled the world, explored new hobbies and interests, and just enjoyed each other's company. We faced challenges and obstacles along the way, but we always found a way to overcome them together. And through it all, our love continued to grow and flourish. As I looked back on our journey, I knew that I had made the right decision. I had taken a chance on love, and it had paid off in the best possible way. I had found my soulmate in Emily, and I knew that I would always cherish and love her. And as I looked into her eyes, I knew that she felt the same way about me. We had built a life together that was filled with love, laughter, and adventure. And I knew that we would continue to grow and evolve together, that we would continue to build a life that was filled with joy, happiness, and love. As I sat on the porch with Emily, holding hands and watching the sunset, I knew that I had found my happily ever after. I had taken a chance on love, and it had paid off in the best possible way. I had found my soulmate, my partner, and my best friend. And as I looked into Emily's eyes, I knew that I would always cherish and love her. I knew that we would continue to grow and evolve together, that we would continue to build a life that was filled with love, laughter, and adventure. I smiled, feeling grateful and content. I knew that I had found my happily ever after, and that I would always be with the person I loved. The end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, it really helps the channel. And if you love gripping stories of betrayal, revenge, and redemption, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Want more? Check out this next story, trust me, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.